always fascinated us. Civilizations have looked upon it for thousands of years, wondering what it could be and what power it might hold. It's at the center of countless myths, legends, and even whole religions. There are ideas that the moon can alter our moods and behaviors, some grounded in genuine science and some not so much. While the classic children's quip that the moon might be made of cheese has never really gone away. Unfortunately for all you Cheddar and Edam fans, we know that last one definitely isn't true. But still, not all bizarre moon theories have been passed down and variously added to through ancient history. As recently as 2016, a new theory popped up when a small number of people predicted that the moon would soon turn neon green due to the alignment of the planets at that particular time. But 6 years later, and that never came to pass either. Perhaps one of the most well-known strange moon theories out there, though, is the hollow moon theory. As the name implies, it posits that our moon is actually a shell and that it's empty inside. It isn't a completely unique or novel idea either. The same has been said about the Earth, with a mistaken belief that can be traced back to the famed astronomer Edmund Halley. In 1692, Halley allegedly proposed that the Earth was made up of a series of alternating round shells, with the space in between these shells possibly harboring their own atmospheres and life forms. The modern variations of hollow Earth include that there could be just one large and unbroken cavity down there, housing everything from giants to notorious criminals to, yes, ultra-advanced aliens or lizard people. But back to the moon, and the idea that it could be hollow was first made famous by the author H.G. Wells in his early 1900s novel, The First Men in the Moon. As with many other one-time sci-fi concepts, however, the hollow moon idea gained traction in real-world science too, and then in conspiracy theory. It wasn't long before the theory was advanced into something else, an idea that has come to be known as the spaceship moon hypothesis. And, in fact, another influential science fiction writer, Isaac Asimov, had some role to play in the formation of this idea. It's said that Asimov, like others before him, had mused over the bizarre improbability that the sun and the moon, despite the huge differences between them, should appear roughly the same size in our sky. And this, then, became a major piece of evidence for those who would ultimately claim that the moon was artificial, made by hand, although not by human hand. Asimov wasn't the only one indirectly fueling the conspiracy either in those early days. More apparent evidence was provided by none other than NASA, although not deliberately. Between 1969 and 1972, the Apollo astronauts that walked the moon installed seismometers there to measure any potential moonquakes. Upon recording moonquakes, though, NASA was met with the curious observation that the moon was at times ringing like a bell. Waves of energy reverberated through the moon during a moonquake, quite differently to how they do on Earth during an earthquake, with the leading scientific explanation being that this was due to the comparative dryness of lunar rock. The idea being that, on Earth, water acts as a shock absorber during earthquakes, so quake measurements don't come out in the same way. But nevertheless, alternate theorists took the moon's ringing as more proof of its actual artificial nature, and furthermore, of it having a hollowed-out core as well. But perhaps the most infamous claim of all emerged at around the same time, in the 1970s again, when two Soviet scientists published a study directly suggesting that the moon was actually the creation of alien beings. A paper titled "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" caused a reasonable stir, claiming, amongst other things, that the moon may have been towed into place in the distant past via a comet, or that it might have actually been built in situ, i.e., in orbit. It has since been argued that the whole episode may have merely been an unusual Cold War attempt by the USSR to undermine and bemuse America, and even the authors behind it have since reportedly admitted that their paper may have been closer to fantasy than fact. But nevertheless, why have people been so prone to rethinking the moon quite so extremely, and especially in the last century or so? The fact that the moon's exact positioning is so essential to how our planet works is perhaps one reason that some are suspicious. What are the chances of it just naturally ending up that way, they ask? And even mainstream science will admit that, really, to have such a perfect balance of conditions here on Earth does appear to be extremely unlikely. Proponents of a hollow moon variously argue that eclipses are also far too coincidental, and that there must be some artificial driver or pilot in play to make them possible. Next question then, if that idea is correct, what are those pilots doing now? Strapped into their moon-sized spaceship, watching our world while almost all of us are totally oblivious to their existence. What are they up to? If they are there, then they've sure been there for a long time. They've yet to really put a foot wrong, too. Besides some inconsistent reports of things like strange lights or markings on the ground allegedly made by some of the Apollo astronauts, and apart from the odd, possibly linked conspiracy theory, such as the Black Knight satellite, there's nothing officially on record to even hint at the moon being anything other than what mainstream science has shown it to be: a large, natural, rocky, and solid satellite to our planet. Still, the fact that science is not yet totally sure on exactly how or when the moon formed is perhaps another reason why alternate moon theories continually appear. The most credible moon formation theory to date is known as the giant impact hypothesis, stating that the moon most likely came about as a byproduct after another, ancient and now long gone planet crashed into Earth. Giant impact is today considered a strong theory, but it isn't watertight. Meanwhile, the moon's craters are a problem for some too. There's some argument that they're flatter than they should be, and that they don't penetrate far enough into the moon's surface to meet expectations. As such, some think that there's an interior protective plate or metal shell just beneath the surface, an artificial structure keeping asteroids from properly breaking through. The exact origin of the general hollow moon idea is difficult to trace, but there are occurrences of it in various more localized myths and legends, such as from the Zulu people and other groups in southern Africa, and long before the likes of H.G. Wells, Asimov, the Apollo missions, or the Soviet Union's alien intelligence paper. In some versions of the legend, a hollow moon really was brought to Earth, rather than a regular moon just so happening to form there. And before the moon, Earth had been an entirely seasonless place, playing host to a thick and stagnant atmosphere, until after the moon's arrival, the rains came, and the floods. Since then, according to some beliefs, it has been as though the moon is watching over humanity, bringing us full circle to the general state of wonder that the moon can elicit from within us. And so, in today's world, versions of the belief still remain, and not only within small groups or as callbacks to an ancient time. It's science fiction for most, but some have faith that a hollow moon and even a spaceship moon is possible. What's your verdict? Be sure to check out the many other videos on our channel, most of which take the more accepted scientific line for our moon, and further ask, what is it? What happens when we went there? And why haven't we been back? There's plenty of mystery even without it being a fake shell to hide a fully functioning ET vehicle. But for now, that's the strange theory that the moon is an alien space.